The USS Ashland sailed through the Gulf of Aden with steady precision, cutting across calm waters under the scorching sun. The sea, though known for its lurking dangers, appeared deceptively peaceful that morning. On the surface, it was just another day of routine patrol of many designed to protect commercial traffic navigating the busy corridor. But beyond the edge of the visible horizon, something small and seemingly insignificant began to emerge. It was a skiftony, barely a blip on radar slowly drifting into view. To a casual eye, it could have passed as a fishing boat, its movements too subtle to raise alarm. But to the trained watchstanders aboard the Ashland, something felt off. There were no visible nets, no buoys, no bait buckets, and certainly no signs of legitimate fishing activity. Just 6 men, a stripped-down hull, and a direction that appeared far too deliberate. From the vantage point of the skiff, the USS Ashland might have looked like an easy target. The pirates aboard, perhaps armed with little more than AK-47s in false confidence, likely assumed they had stumbled upon a defenseless freighter, a floating jackpot. They could not have been more wrong. The ship in their crosshairs wasn't a merchant vessel. It was a fully operational dock landing ship of the United States Navy, an armed warship with advanced radar, onboard Marines, and the firepower to obliterate any threat. What started as a hunt for ransom would soon turn into a desperate scramble for survival. For those 6 men in the skiff, the illusion of an easy payday was about to collapse in fire and smoke. By 2010, when the USS Ashland began its patrols, Somali piracy had become a major international crisis. The waters off the Horn of Africa, particularly the Gulf of Aden and Somali Basin, had transformed from scattered danger zones into hotspots for organized maritime crime. With no stable central government, Somalia's coastline became a launchpad for increasingly desperate and violent operations. Originally, pirates justified their actions by citing foreign exploitation, illegal fishing, and toxic dumping in Somali waters. But over time, these grievances gave way to economics. Hijacking ships and crews for ransom became a multi-million-dollar enterprise. For young men with no jobs and no law, piracy was a career. These pirates weren't heavily equipped. They traveled in fiberglass skiffs powered by outboard motors, armed with AK-47s, RPGs, and sometimes machetes. But their tactics were aggressive. They targeted slow or lightly defended ships, often far from shore, using motherships to expand their reach. By 2008, the problem had escalated so sharply that commercial vessels began rerouting thousands of miles to avoid pirate waters. Insurance premiums soared. Global pressure built. In response, multinational coalitions formed, including NATO's Operation Ocean Shield and the Combined Maritime Force to protect trade routes and restore security. The U.S. Navy played a leading role. Warships like the Ashland were deployed to track, intercept, and neutralize pirate threats through surveillance, intelligence gathering, and rapid engagement. Each patrol served as a message. International waters would not be ruled by outlaws. Still, piracy persisted. For every captured crew, another skiff waited. And on April 10, one of them was headed straight for the USS Ashland. On the morning of April 10, 2010, the 6-man pirate crew made their move. The skiff suddenly changed course, picking up speed and heading directly toward the Ashland's port side. From the deck of the warship, the crew had already confirmed that the vessel posed a likely threat. The lack of fishing equipment had raised early suspicions, and the course adjustment sealed the assumption. Now, as the skiff closed in, the moment of decision arrived. Without warning, the attackers opened fire. Bullets cracked across the waves as small arms fire rained toward the Ashland's hull. The pirates may have believed they had the element of surprise. Perhaps they still thought they were facing a defenseless freighter. If so, that illusion was about to be shattered. The Ashland's crew, already operating under heightened alert, responded instantly but not recklessly. Following the Navy's rules of engagement, they returned fire with deliberate precision. 2 rounds from the ship's Mk-38 Mod, 225mm chain gun, erupted from the deck. These weren't warning shots. They were carefully aimed, powerful, and deadly. The impact was immediate. One of the rounds struck the skiff directly, igniting it in a ball of flames. The fiberglass hull disintegrated under the force. Fire engulfed the boat in seconds, and panic swept over the pirates. Their plan had unraveled faster than they could have imagined. Realizing the ship wasn't some easy mark, but a full-fledged combat vessel, the attackers abandoned their burning craft. One by one, they hurled themselves into the sea. Weapons, tools, and stolen dreams sank into the saltwater. A threat had been neutralized. But for the USS Ashland, the mission was not over. With enemy combatants now floating in the open ocean, the next step was one that highlighted the Navy's dual identity warrior and rescuer in equal measure. As smoke rose from the shattered skiff and its survivors flailed in the water, the USS Ashland's focus immediately shifted from defense to rescue. Though the pirates had just launched a hostile attack, The Navy's orders were clear. Once the threat had been eliminated, saving lives became the next priority. Two rigid-hull inflatable boats, ribs, were quickly lowered into the sea, manned by trained sailors and Marines. They approached the drifting men with cautionary movement, carefully choreographed. Each pirate was thoroughly searched while still in the water to ensure no weapons remained hidden on their person. Only after they were confirmed unarmed were they pulled aboard. Once on deck, the detainees received immediate medical attention. Some were burned, others hypothermic, most disoriented. Navy corpsmen, trained for both battlefield trauma and emergency aid, administered treatment. Despite the earlier attack, there was no hesitation in helping those now helpless. The Ashland sustained no damage, and none of its crew were injured. The 6 suspected pirates, however, were now officially in custody. Their short-lived assault had ended in defeat, not just militarily, but morally. The Navy had met force with restraint and retaliation with rescue. This rapid shift from combat to compassion is not uncommon aboard Navy vessels. Rules of engagement are paired with a doctrine of humanity. Enemies are disarmed but not discarded. The rescue of the 6 men served not only as a tactical victory, but as a reminder. American warships operate with both discipline and dignity, even in the face of direct attack. The Ashland's encounter was just one chapter in a much larger story unfolding across the region. In the 10 days surrounding that attack, U.S. naval forces had responded to multiple acts of piracy. On March 31, less than 2 weeks before the Ashland engagement, the USS Nicholas, a guided missile frigate, was fired upon while operating west of the Seychelles. That incident also ended with swift retaliation. 5 suspected pirates were captured. Just 5 days later, on April 5, another U.S. ship, the USS McFall, received a distress call from the commercial vessel MV Rising Sun, which was under threat from an armed pirate group. Responding without delay, McFall arrived on the scene and intervened, capturing 10 more suspects and preventing a possible hijacking. In total, these 3 operations across 10 days led to the detention of 21 suspected pirates. These weren't just reactive events. They were coordinated, lawful demonstrations of force designed to send a message to every pirate crew sailing in the region. The U.S. Navy was watching, and it would respond. Each incident highlighted the same combination of tactics: early detection through radar and visual observation, firm application of defensive firepower when attacked, and immediate humanitarian care once the threat had passed. These were not indiscriminate crackdowns. They were deliberate, rule-bound actions tailored to safeguard lives and preserve lawful order at sea. The impact rippled outward. Shipping companies praised the Navy's interventions. International media took note. While some human rights groups raised questions about detention practices, the broader response was clear. Global trade routes had been defended, and would-be hijackers had learned a harsh lesson. The waters off the Horn of Africa were no longer an unchecked hunting ground. With 6 suspected pirates detained aboard the USS Ashland, the next step was legal processing, a phase often more complicated than the capture itself. International maritime law treats piracy as a universal crime, giving any nation the authority to prosecute. But in reality, jurisdictional and political hurdles make that easier said than done. The U.S. Navy can detain suspects, but usually hands them off to regional partners like Kenya or the Seychelles, where specialized courts handle piracy cases. These courts, however, are frequently overwhelmed or under-resourced. Trials may be delayed or dismissed altogether if evidence is lacking: no weapons recovered, no clear footage, no willing witnesses. Diplomatic concerns and human rights also play a role. Are suspects being treated fairly? Do their home countries want them back? In some cases, pirates are quietly repatriated without trial. Those captured by the Ashland were likely transferred to authorities in Djibouti or another cooperating state. If prosecuted, they could face charges ranging from piracy to weapons offenses. Sentences vary. Some pirates serve long terms. Others walk free after minimal detention. The Ashland's crew had done their part by the book. What happened next would be decided not on the water but in the courtroom. The skiff's crew may have expected to confront a slow-moving, lightly defended cargo ship, but what they actually faced was the USS Ashland, LSD-48, a Whidbey Island-class dock landing ship purpose-built to support amphibious assault operations. This was not just a transport vessel. It was a heavily equipped combat platform designed to move Marines, deploy landing craft, and project power from the sea to the shore. Commissioned in 1989, the Ashland weighs over 16.0 tons when fully loaded and is part of the U.S. Navy's broader amphibious fleet. Its massive well deck can launch hovercraft or landing craft for beach assaults. On board are combat vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and elements of the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, trained for everything from urban warfare to humanitarian relief. Defensively, the ship is anything but vulnerable. In addition to the Mk-38 Mod 2 25mm chain gun, The Ashland is outfitted with Phalanx CIWS, close-in weapon system, for point defense against incoming missiles and aircraft, multiple .50 caliber machine guns, and small arms lockers for shipboard security. Its surveillance systems are just as robust. High-resolution radar, night vision cameras, and electronic warfare sensors allow it to monitor vast stretches of ocean. Every crew member, from the commanding officer to the lookout on the bridge, is trained to respond rapidly and decisively in high-pressure situations. Drills are frequent, and every sailor knows their role. At the time of the pirate attack, the Ashland wasn't patrolling idly. It was actively supporting operations tied to the 24th MEU stationed in Djibouti, providing logistical and strategic support to forward-deployed Marines. The ship was not just battle-ready, it was in battle rhythm. The pirates had chosen the wrong target. What they saw as opportunity was, in reality, one of the worst possible choices they could have made. The USS Ashland's rapid response to the pirate skiff wasn't chance, it was preparation. Long before the threat got close, the ship had already identified and tracked it. Despite the vastness of the Gulf of Aden, modern warships like the Ashland are equipped with layered detection systems capable of spotting small, fast-moving vessels from miles away. At the core of this system is surface search radar, powerful enough to detect even low-profile skiffs in rough water. Though small and close to the surface, such boats still produce a radar signature distinct from background clutter, especially in the hands of trained operators. Once flagged as suspicious, the skiff's every movement was monitored by the ship's Combat Information Center, CIC. Lookouts with binoculars and night vision gear kept eyes on the vessel, even during daylight. Intelligence teams monitored communications and gathered satellite data. When the skiff suddenly changed course and accelerated toward the Ashland, alarms were raised literally. A ship-wide alert was issued. Battle stations were manned. Weapons were powered on. The crew was ready. Still, judgment remained key. Officers assessed the boat's intent. Was this a misunderstanding or a deliberate threat? What confirmed suspicion was the absence of fishing equipment, no nets, no buoys, just armed men, and a straight course toward a Navy ship. The Ashland didn't strike preemptively. It waited until the skiff opened fire. Only then did it respond with precision. This wasn't guesswork or reflex. It was a coordinated blend of technology, discipline, and training, the kind that makes U.S. Navy warships exceptionally hard to catch off guard. Mounted on the deck of the USS Ashland was a weapon that played a decisive role in ending the pirate threat, the Mk-38 Mod 225mm chain gun. Unlike traditional manually operated guns, the Mk-38 is remotely controlled from inside the ship, allowing operators to engage threats without exposing themselves to enemy fire. It's a system designed for precision in chaos. The Mk-38 is stabilized, meaning that even when the ship rocks in the water, the weapon maintains a steady aim. It's equipped with daylight and thermal cameras, allowing it to track fast-moving targets like speedboats both during the day and at night. The gun can fire armor-piercing rounds at hundreds of rounds per minute, though in most cases like this one, it only needs a few shots to do the job. When the pirates opened fire, the crew didn't unleash a barrage. They didn't need to. Just 2 rounds were fired. That restraint speaks volumes about the U.S. Navy's commitment to measured, proportional force. Those 2 shots were enough. The skiff exploded into flames, on immediate and unmistakable end to the assault. For the attackers, the weapon was devastating. For the Ashland, it was a scalpel, not a hammer capable of defending the ship without escalating beyond what was necessary. In an era where split-second decisions have global consequences, the Mk-38 represents both overwhelming power and tight discipline. Even after the flames died down and the pirates were brought aboard, the mission was far from over. The next phase began immediately: intelligence gathering. Every attack, however small, could offer insight into the broader network behind Somali piracy. From the wreckage of the skiff, sailors recovered what they could. Any weapons, electronics, documents, or GPS devices were carefully cataloged and passed to the ship's intelligence team. Each item was more than potential courtroom evidence. It was a piece of a puzzle that might reveal pirate supply lines, launch points, or communications patterns. The skiff's path, behavior, and build were analyzed. Was it traced to a known pirate base? Did the electronics contain coordinates or intercepted chatter? Were the weapons standard or outliers? These questions shaped the next steps. At the same time, surveillance footage from the Mk-38 gun cam, radar logs, and deck camera swaths reviewed in detail. The entire engagement was dissected to ensure it aligned with legal and tactical standards. The rules of engagement were reviewed line by line and confirmed to have been properly followed. The 6 detainees were held in secure quarters, watched around the clock, and monitored by medics. Interrogators and legal officers prepared for questioning, aiming to extract leads about financing, routes, or accomplices. What appeared to be a single small-scale attack might, in reality, be part of a larger web. For the Ashland's intel team, the fight had lasted only minutes, but the information it uncovered could influence months of strategy across the region. While warships like the USS Ashland are built for defense, most commercial vessels sailing through pirate-infested waters are not. Yet, they must still transit dangerous areas like the Gulf of Aden, the Strait of Malacca, and parts of West Africa. To stay safe, merchant ships have adopted a mix of defensive strategies, some simple, others surprisingly advanced. The first line of defense is situational awareness. Before entering high-risk zones, crews receive threat briefings, review piracy reports, and plan alternate routes. Once at sea, security measures kick in. Doors are locked, exterior lights are dimmed, and extra lookouts are posted 24/7. Many ships wrap razor wire along railings to hinder boarding attempts. Fire hoses are kept pressurized and ready to blast intruders off the deck. Some vessels use LRADs, long-range acoustic devices, sound cannons that emit painful high-frequency noise to drive attackers away. For high-risk cargo, shipping firms often hire private security teams, usually ex-military armed and authorized to defend the ship if needed. Pirates, seeking easy targets, often avoid vessels showing signs of resistance. Convoy sailing is another tactic. Under naval protection from groups like Combined Task Force 151, merchant ships travel in designated corridors, improving visibility and mutual support. These methods have significantly reduced successful hijackings. But even the best-prepared cargo ship ultimately depends on nearby naval forces to intervene if deterrence fails. In piracy zones, real safety comes from knowing help isn't far behind. The fight against piracy off Somalia has never been the work of a single nation. It's been a coordinated, multinational effort to protect global trade through one of the world's most vulnerable sea lanes. The United States, NATO, the European Union, and regional powers have all contributed ships, aircraft, and personnel to a mission larger than any one navy. At the core is Combined Task Force 151, CTF 151, a multinational group formed specifically to counter piracy. Ships from countries including the US, UK, Japan, Pakistan, and South Korea rotate deployments through the Gulf of Aden and Somali Basin, with a unified mission: detect, deter, and disrupt pirate activity. Supporting them is NATO's Operation Ocean Shield, which provides visible patrols and escorts for high-risk vessels, while the EU Naval Force runs Operation Atalanta, focused on safeguarding humanitarian shipments and commercial traffic. These coalitions go beyond patrols. They share intelligence, synchronize convoy routes, and conduct joint training exercises to ensure seamless coordination. Real-time communication between ships allows for immediate reaction when threats emerge. The impact has been clear. In the early 2010s, pirate attacks were frequent and widespread. By 2020, those numbers had dropped sharply thanks in large part to this sustained international presence. As part of the Nassau Amphibious Ready Group, the USS Ashland operated within this broader framework. Its mission wasn't just about defending American interests, it was part of a global commitment to keeping international waters open, protected, and secure. While ships like the USS Ashland carry powerful tools for detecting and engaging threats, they don't operate alone. A critical advantage in the fight against piracy comes from the sky, where surveillance aircraft and unmanned systems provide a bird's-eye view of vast ocean regions. The P-8A Poseidon, a U.S. Navy maritime patrol aircraft, plays a key role in these missions. Outfitted with advanced radar, sonar buoys, and infrared sensors, it can sweep hundreds of square miles of ocean in a single flight. It's not just scanning for ships that can detect speed changes, formation patterns, and heat signatures, helping to distinguish pirate vessels from legitimate traffic. Drones also play an increasing role. The MQ-9 Reaper and smaller systems like the Scan Eagle can loiter for hours, relaying live video back to command centers or nearby warships. These drones are silent, persistent, and capable of hovering over pirate camps or suspicious boats without detection. In one operation, intelligence teams used aerial surveillance to locate pirate supply caches, outboard motors, fuel drums, and weapons along a stretch of Somalia's coastline. Ships could then be directed precisely to those areas for interception or observation. Even satellites contribute. High-resolution imagery is analyzed by analysts to map patterns of movement and track known pirate routes. If multiple skiffs are launching from the same stretch of shoreline, that data is passed on to strike teams or naval commands for further action. On the day of the Ashland engagement, such assets helped confirm the skiff's suspicious course and lack of legitimate activity. This coordination between sea and sky made the ship's response not just fast, but informed. The ocean may be vast, but with modern surveillance, there are fewer and fewer places for pirates to hide. The USS Ashland didn't operate alone even within its own hull. On board were units from the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, MEU, a rapid response force trained for everything from combat landings to disaster relief. When pirates attacked, these Marines played a vital, if quiet, supporting role. While the ship's command and deck crews handled the engagement, Marines stood ready to respond if the situation escalated. Trained for ship defense, boarding operations, and close quarters encounters, they had rehearsed these scenarios countless times. During the rescue, Marines provided overwatch with small arms and optics, watching for hidden threats in the water. Their presence wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. If the pirates had remained aggressive, the Marines ensured the response would be swift and decisive. Once the detainees were brought aboard, Marines assisted with processing and securing the holding area, maintaining order and safety for both sides. This kind of Navy-Marine integration is standard in amphibious ready groups like the one Ashland belonged to. The Navy provides reach and support. The Marines bring tactical precision and force protection. Their partnership is forged through joint training and years of deployment. For the Ashland, this meant more than just defensive readiness. It meant the ability to project force immediately, whether rescuing, securing, or neutralizing threats, with Marines trained to act the moment they were needed. Pirate crews off the Somali coast often operated on outdated intel, reckless judgment, and desperation. Many attacks were launched from impoverished areas where criminal networks supplied fuel, weapons, and crude information, often inaccurate. In the Ashland incident, the skiff's crew likely misidentified their target. From a distance, U.S. Navy ships can resemble commercial freighters, especially through poor optics or without radar. Believing they were chasing an easy cargo ship, the pirates unknowingly charged a warship loaded with weapons, Marines, and advanced surveillance. While some pirate groups may target military vessels, intentionally hoping for equipment or attention, this was clearly a fatal miscalculation. Armed only with small arms, the attackers were hopelessly outmatched. Their tactic crush in open fire, an attempt to disable, might have worked against a lightly defended merchant vessel, but against the Ashland, it was a suicide mission. Worse still, the pirates had no backup plan. Once their boat was hit and burning, they had no second vessel, no extraction, and no allies. Just 6 men adrift in open water, surrounded by the debris of their mistake. In the end, piracy in this region often exposes its harsh reality. It isn't always calculated crime, it's reckless desperation. And sometimes, that desperation ends in flames.